The beast stood still. Its huge chest moved with each breath, and steam rose from its nostrils. Its eyes, bright red, once wild now, seemed unsure. Alien soldiers gripped their weapons tighter, unsure if they should fire or freeze. Captain Rian hadn't moved. Lord Vexor stepped forward, rage in his voice, but something in his eyes had changed. It was confusion and fear, not for the human, but for what the human might know. "No creature resists me," Vexor growled, "especially not this one. It was born in fire, trained in war. It obeys without question, always." But the beast didn't obey now. It tilted its head toward Rian again. It blinked slowly. It made a soft, low sound, one no soldier had ever heard from it before. Rian didn't speak. He crouched down slightly and extended a hand, not as a threat, but as a signal. A silent moment passed. Then, the beast took a slow step forward. Every alien gun was raised. Vexor shouted, "Hold fire." But even he wasn't sure if it was the right command. The beast leaned closer to Rian's outstretched hand. Its breath was hot, burning the air between them, but Rian didn't move back. He whispered again, a single word. Not in human language, not an alien tongue, but something older. Deeper, almost like a memory being sung into the wind. The beast flinched. And then, slowly, unbelievably, it backed away, not from fear, from recognition. Vexor stared in disbelief. "What trick is this?" shouted. "What poison do your words carry, human?" Rian stood up straight. "You treat it like a pet," he said calmly, "like a weapon. But this creature was never made to serve. It remembers that. You just forgot." Gasps echoed among the alien ranks. One brave soldier stepped forward. "My lord," he said to Vexor, "what if the human is telling the truth?" Vexor turned to him with a stare that could melt steel. "Silence," he growled. "I will not be questioned, not by you, not by a beast, not by a man from a dying planet." Rian smiled faintly again, that same smile. "Dying," he said, "you misunderstand. Earth doesn't die. It evolves, just like this creature." He looked at the beast again. "Don't you, old friend?" The beast blinked slowly, then turned its head away from Vexor. The entire valley went silent. No alien dared speak. The air itself seemed to pause, as if the world waited for the next move. "Enough," Vexor said suddenly, his voice lower now. "Take him to the black chamber." The soldiers hesitated. The beast, Vexor snapped. "It will not act unless I say so." And I haven't. 6 soldiers approached Rian cautiously. The beast didn't move. Rian didn't resist as they led him away. Rian looked over his shoulder just once and met the beast's eyes. He gave it a nod, small but clear. The beast gave a single low grunt in return. Inside the alien fortress, Rian was placed in a cold room made of dark metal. The walls buzzed with quiet energy. No windows. No light except for the glow from a thin line in the ceiling. An alien interrogator entered. Small in size but sharpened and skilled in reading minds. Literally, he touched Rian's forehead with 3 fingers and whispered, "You will not hide your thoughts from me." Rian closed his eyes and thought of fire. The interrogator gasped and pulled his hand away. "What did you see?" Rian asked quietly. The alien didn't speak. He simply backed away, face pale, and ran out of the room. A moment later, a red alert rang through the fortress. The beast had left its holding cage. Without permission. Without command. It was looking for something or someone, and it had never done that before. Far away, in the control room, Vexor slammed his fist into the console. "Find it," he roared, "and if it approaches the human, destroy them both." But another voice in the room spoke softer, higher. Female, the alien queen. She had been watching in silence. "You fear a man with no weapon," she said slowly, "and a beast that listens to no master.
I wonder.
Which one is more dangerous?" Vexor said nothing, because he didn't know anymore. And somewhere, inside the cold, dark walls of the fortress, the beast was moving. Quiet, steady, focused. toward. The human toward, the one who didn't tremble, and maybe never would. Captain Rian sat alone in the silent chamber. The lights flickered above him, casting long, moving shadows on the cold black walls. He hadn't moved in hours. His hands were calm, his breath steady, his mind somewhere else. Footsteps echoed. Outside the door, metallic, sharp, controlled. Then it opened. A tall alien female stepped in. She wore a silver robe, her face hidden behind a soft, glowing veil, but her presence was powerful. Stronger than Vexor's. She did not raise her voice. Yet the air felt heavier the moment she entered. "You're not afraid," she said quietly, almost like a whisper. Rian didn't answer right away. He tilted his head slightly. "You're not here to torture me," he said. "That means you're curious." Right. She stepped closer. "You spoke to the beast, and it listened." Right. "Why?" Rian smiled faintly. "Because I didn't treat it like a monster." Her head tilted behind the veil. "But it is a monster. It was born in our war cages. It knows only destruction." "Oh," Rian said softly. "It knows pain. It knows memory.
Ow.
It remembers things you thought were erased." She stayed silent for a moment, then took a breath. "Do you know what it did last night?" Rian looked at her, eyes sharp. "I have an idea." "It tore through 4 security doors," she said. "But didn't harm a single guard. It walked past them as if they didn't exist. It came to this block. Stood by your door. And then it waited." "I told you," Rian said. "We're connected." "But how?" she asked. "Did you train it? Did humans create it?" Rian looked down for a second, then back up. "No," he said. "We didn't create it, but we unlocked something inside it. Something even you forgot was there." There was silence. Then she sat down across from him. "We found this species long ago," she said. "It was wild, untamed, but we broke it, used pain, used fear, until it forgot who it was, until it obeyed." "You didn't tame it," Rian replied. "You damaged it. You buried its true nature under fire and steel. But memories don't die. They just wait." She leaned closer. "So why you?" "Does it trust you?" Rian closed his eyes. A faint image flashed in his mind, a small version of the beast, years ago, wounded and locked in a dark cage. A younger Rian, wearing a white coat, kneeling by the bars, offering it water, whispering. Something to calm it, not as a soldier, but as a friend. "I met it a long time ago," he said. "When it was young, hurt, scared." "She didn't speak, and I didn't touch it," he continued. "I didn't hurt it. I just sat there every day, quietly, until one day, stopped." Growling, she stared at him through the veil. "You bonded with a creature built for death?" "No," Rian said. "I bonded with a creature built for survival." Outside the chamber, alarms suddenly flashed, red dot, heavy running. Voices shouting. Weapons charging. The door burst open. Vexor stormed in, armor scorched and cloak torn. "The beast is coming here," he shouted.
"What? You?"
He pointed at Rian, eyes burning. "What spell did you cast? What poison runs in its mind?" I said. "Nothing," Rian said, standing now. "It made its choice." Vexor grabbed him by the collar. "You think you've won, human? You think a single animal makes you strong?" "No," Rian said calmly. "But your fear does." Vexor raised a fist to strike, but the wall behind him cracked. A giant claw punched through the metal. The beast roared, not in rage, but in warning. Every soldier in the room froze. Vexor stepped back slowly, breathing hard. The queen remained seated. The wall collapsed, and the beast entered the chamber. It was bleeding. It had fought to get here, not to kill, but to protect. It walked past the guards, past the queen, right to Rian, and then it sat beside him. Quiet, loyal. The room was silent. Even Vexor couldn't speak. Rian placed his hand on the creature's shoulder. "You see," he said softly, "some bonds are stronger than chains, and not all monsters are what they seem." The queen stood. Her voice was quiet, but unshaken. "What do you want, Captain Rian?" Rian looked at her. "Not war," he said, "but I came ready for it." She looked at the beast, then at Rian, then at Vexor, still frozen. "This changes everything," she said. "No," Rian replied. "This reveals everything." Somewhere outside, distant engines roared. The sky above the fortress turned silver. Human ships were entering orbit, and for the first time in many years the aliens hesitated because one human alone, without weapons, was enough to make their greatest weapon doubt its master, and maybe we'll choose a new one. The command tower stood high above the alien city, its black spires reaching through the clouds like claws. From its windows, stars shimmered faintly, a reminder that this world, once full of conquerors, now watched someone else rise, Captain. Rian stood with his back to the alien generals. Behind him, the beast waited, breathing slow and steady. Its presence no longer felt like a threat. It felt like a choice made. And that made it more terrifying than ever. "You are still a prisoner," one general said. His voice trembled, but he tried to sound strong. "You walk freely, but you are not free." Rian turned slowly. "I didn't ask for freedom. I asked for your attention." The queen entered the room then. Everyone went silent. She walked slowly, her face still behind the glowing veil, her footsteps quiet, but each one carried weight. She looked at the beast, then at Rian. "You have it?" she said. The other generals looked at her in shock, but none dared interrupt. Rian nodded. "Then listen closely." He stepped forward and looked out the window. "Your people think we are weak, that humans are fragile, emotional, undisciplined. And in some ways, you're right. We cry, we bleed, we break." He turned around again, "But then we get back up. And we remember everything that made us fall." Glanced at the beast, then back at the queen. "You broke this creature, and it remembered." "You thought it would forget. Didn't. You thought it was just a weapon. It wasn't." One of the generals, bolder than the rest, stepped forward. "You use emotions like tools. It's manipulation." Rian looked at him calmly. "No, it's survival." He walked toward the center of the room, speaking with a quiet strength that filled the space. "Your empire grew because you made others afraid of you. But fear doesn't last. Fear fades. Loyalty stays. And right now, your greatest weapon made a choice." The queen spoke again. "And what is your choice, human?" "To give you one last chance," Rian said. "Surrender. Share knowledge. Join us, or ... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The beast let out a deep rumble. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The queen's voice softened. "Do you know what you're asking for, Captain Rian? You want to dismantle thousands of years of power. You want us to kneel. I want you to evolve," he said. "Just like we did." Another general snapped. "And if we refuse..." Rian turned to face him directly. "Then Earth will come," he said. "Not with one ship, not with one man. With storms. With code that learns while it fights. With machines that don't sleep. With minds that grow faster than your fastest weapons. And worst of all," he leaned slightly closer, "with patience." The room was dead silent. The queen walked to the window and stared at the sky. Faint silver lines were beginning to form above the clouds. Human ships. Not attacking, not yet, but watching. She whispered, "They're already here," "Yes," Rian said. "But they wait for my signal." Behind him, the beast shifted slightly. It looked toward the city below. Lights flickered as word of the creature's betrayal spread. Soldiers didn't know whether to chase it or follow it. Fear was no longer clear. Power was no longer trusted. Then the chamber doors burst open. Verspa, blood on his armor, rage in his eyes. He walked in without bowing. He ignored the queen. He walked straight to Rian. "You dare speak of loyalty?" he hissed. "You tricked that animal, lied to it, played with its mind." Rian didn't respond. Vexor shouted, "You don't understand what that thing is. We made it. Said you broke it. Now it's healing." Vexor drew a blade, not a gun. A long, curved weapon made for honor killing. "Then let's finish this without armies. Just you, me, and the truth," the beast growled, stepping forward. But Rian raised a hand. "No," he said softly to the creature. Not yet. Rian stepped forward, unarmed. No armor. No tricks. Vexor slashed. Rian ducked. Another strike. Rian stepped aside. He didn't fight like a soldier. He moved like someone who had studied the opponent 1,000 times. Calm, measured, waiting, and then. Vexor struck too wide. Rian moved. In and whispered something in his ear, just 2 words. Vexor froze. His blade fell to the floor. He stepped back, a wide-eyed trembling. No, he said. You can't know that. Rian didn't answer. He simply walked back, toward the beast. The queen stepped forward. What did you say to him? Rian looked at her. For a long time he didn't speak. Then finally, something from his childhood. Even the generals were stunned now. Vexor sank to his knees, broken, defeated, not by force, by memory. The queen looked at Rian with a strange new emotion behind her veil. Not hate, not fear, but something else. Respect, or maybe something closer to understanding. Rian looked back toward the stars. A single green light blinked on his wrist. A silent message. From Earth. They were ready now. The choice truly belonged to the aliens, and time was running out. Outside the alien capital, the sky was no longer quiet. From the ground, strange silver lines began to spread across the atmosphere, forming shapes that weren't clouds. They were ships. Dozens, then hundreds, moving in silence. No sound, no announcement. Just presence. Inside the fortress, the queen stood at the highest balcony, watching them gather above her world. They didn't come to destroy, she whispered, but they didn't come empty-handed. Behind her, Captain Rian stood beside. The beast, both of them silent. Around them, alien guards still held weapons, but none aimed them, not anymore, because no one could tell who was in control now. Not truly. Vexor had vanished. After the last confrontation, he had disappeared into the lower levels of the fortress. His armor stained, his pride shattered. Some said he was regrouping for a final stand. Others said he had broken completely, but Rian didn't care. He wasn't. Focused on Vexor, he was watching the sky. The green signal on his wrist pulsed again. 1 blink. Then 2. Then 3 arts was ready, and they were asking, "Do we begin?" But Rian waited. Because not all wars start with guns. Some start with silence. One of the alien generals approached from behind. This time he didn't speak. With arrogance, he removed his helmet before talking. "What do you gain from this?" he asked. "If we fall, our systems crash. Our trade ends. Our data burns. You may win, but you lose history." "We don't want to erase your history," Rian said, turning to face him. "We want to stop becoming a part of your destruction." The general looked at the beast and lowered his voice. "That thing. It was bred to kill us too, you know? In case we disobeyed, it was never just for war. It was for control." Rian nodded. "That's why it chose." The queen stepped forward. "And if we agree to surrender," she asked, "what happens next?" "You don't surrender, Rian. Said you adapt." She was silent for a moment, then asked, "And if we refuse?" At that, the beast stood taller. Its chest rose. Its claws scraped the floor. It didn't growl. It didn't roar. It just breathed. That was enough, because everyone remembered what it could do. 1 claw was enough to tear a wall open. 1 leap was enough to silence a battalion. And now, it was calm, because it believed in the man beside it, down in the city. Something was changing. Alien civilians, those who watched from their rooftops and windows, saw the ships in the sky and did not run. They didn't scream. Many simply stood in silence, staring upward. Because these ships weren't like the others that came to conquer. They weren't dark or jagged or noisy. They hovered like watchers. It's peaceful, but impossible to ignore. A small group of aliens began to gather. Outside the fortress gates. Not to protest, not to fight, but to listen. One of them held a sign, not written in alien text, but in Earth's language. It said, "Choose the future." Back inside, the queen moved slowly toward Rian. "You speak of evolution," she said, "but you bring ships, threats, power. You say you want peace. But you stand beside the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. Rian looked her in the eyes. Exactly. She raised her head slightly, waiting for more. He stepped closer. Because peace only means something. If we had the power to choose war, the beast made a sound then. Not loud, but deep. It echoed through the walls. Another general entered the room in a rush. His voice was breathless. There's unrest, he said. Some of our soldiers are laying down arms, not in fear, in belief. They think the beast is some kind of sign. Rian didn't turn. He spoke quietly. They're not wrong. That's when the power grid in the fortress flickered, then went dark. Only the emergency lights stayed on, casting long shadows down the halls. What happened? The Queen asked sharply. The general swallowed. A signal from orbit. Slipped through our firewalls, quiet, precise. It entered our central system. It's rewriting something. Rand finally turned. Our AI has been listening, he said. Not attacking, just learning. Your defense systems, your language, your command logic. And now it's giving your systems a choice. Choice. The Queen repeated. Machines don't give choices. Ours do, Rian said. Because we built them to ask questions, not just follow orders. The beast moved again. It looked toward the dark hallway. Something had changed. Then, sound of armored footsteps. Vexor had returned, but he wasn't alone. Behind him marched a full unit of elite soldiers. Unmarked, emotionless, no banners. He looked thinner, pale, but his eyes were steady. Rian, he said, his voice no longer shouting. You made your point. Rian raised an eyebrow. And you've made your decision? Vexor stepped forward. I have. He turned to the Queen. Then to the other generals, then dropped his weapon behind him. The soldiers did the same. No words, just action. The Queen looked around the room. Then at the skies above. The ships hadn't fired a single shot. The beast hadn't taken a single life. And yet, the war had stopped. For now, she removed her veil and looked at Rian, eye to eye. Then we begin, she said. The alien city was quiet. Not the silence of fear, not the silence after a battle, but something different, something unfamiliar. The kind of silence that comes when history pauses and breathes. Above the capital, human ships hung in perfect formation. They didn't fire. They didn't move. They only watched. Thousands of them, shaped like wings, balanced like scales. No lights, no sound. They looked like shadows cut into the sky. Below, alien streets began to change. Soldiers removed their armor. Civilians lit their signal fires, not red for war, but white for peace. Children, who had been told all their lives that humans were monsters from a dying world, looked up at the ships and asked questions their parents couldn't answer. Back in the fortress, Queen stood beside Rian. She no longer wore the veil. Face was marked by time, wisdom, and something that rarely survived in war. Curiosity. You've won without killing, she said. But that frightens me more than any battle. Rian didn't smile. He was not proud. He was not cruel. He simply listened. We didn't come here to crush you, he said. We came here to see what choice you'd make when fear was no longer your only guide. She looked at the beast, which now sat quietly at the edge of the balcony, its large head resting on its claws. It watched the sky, but its ears stayed turned toward Rian. Tell me the truth, the Queen said. Why does it follow you? Rian paused for a long time. Because it remembers a life before it was turned into a weapon. Keep saying that, she replied. But that life, where was it? Who were its people? He looked out over. The city. They weren't yours, he said. The Queen froze. They weren't ours either. But we found the pieces. In the shadows behind them, Vexor stepped forward. His armor was gone now. He walked like a man who had climbed out of his own grave. I've seen the reports, he said. Long before your arrival, deep scans from the outer belt. There were signals. Before your species even had spaceflight. Rian nodded slowly. And you erased them, covered them up. Vexor looked ashamed. We were afraid of what they meant. You were right to be, Rian said quietly, because the beast wasn't made for war. It was made for something else. Something older than war. Something your people didn't understand. Something even we barely understand. The queen stepped back slowly. What is it then? Rian turned to her. Memory. We walked to the center of the chamber and spoke more clearly now. This creature is not just a biological weapon. It's a vessel, living archive. Built by a civilization older than both of ours. A race that vanished long before your empire rose and before Earth learned to leave its oceans. No species survives that long, the queen said. Not physically, Rian agreed. In code, in DNA, in thought. He touched the beast gently on its side. It let out a soft, low tone like a song underwater. They passed their history into living beings. Not machines, not scrolls, not data cubes, into creatures that could remember. Across generations. The room was silent, and when you captured it, Rian continued, you broke the link, tortured it, muted the memories, but not forever. Queen was pale now. Then, what it sees in you, it's not just empathy. No, Rian said. It's recognition. You carry part of it, she whispered. Part of them. Rian said nothing. The beast looked up. Its red eyes were glowing now, not bright, not angry, but deep, like fire buried beneath stone. In the distance, across the city, a soft rumble shook the ground. Not an explosion, a signal from orbit. One of the human ships had opened a hatch. It wasn't a weapon, it was a satellite. It deployed slowly, spreading thin, metallic wings, and then began to pulse invisible waves across the planet, touching every system. Not hacking, not attacking, just waking something up. The queen looked to Rian, alarmed. What are you doing? He turned toward her. You said it frightens you to win without killing, he said. It frightens me more to remember without. Knowing why? In the alien labs, machines began to flicker. Symbols appeared on screens no one could read. In the great libraries, ancient texts started to rearrange themselves. Codes shifted, and the neural networks connected to the beasts. Biology, entire memory clusters unlocked, ones that hadn't activated in thousands of years, and the beast began to change. Its breath deepened. Its skin shimmered, not like metal, but like glass reflecting stars. Rian stepped back. It's not just one, he said. The queen's voice shook. What? There are more, Rian said. Buried. Sleeping, watching. The beast stood. It looked to the sky, and then it spoke. Not in human tongue, not in the alien language, but in a voice that made the lights tremble and the stone walls vibrate. A language not meant to be spoken, but remembered. Everyone froze. The city went still. The human fleet above stopped broadcasting. The queen stepped back. You said you came for peace? I did, Rian said. But peace was only ever the beginning. Beast kept speaking, or singing, or remembering, and something far beyond the stars began to answer. The city no longer belonged to the aliens, nor did it belong to the humans. It belonged to silence, a new kind of silence, not of surrender, not of war, but of witnessing. The beast stood in the center of the high chamber. Its body no longer looked like a weapon, it looked like a monument, a vessel carved by time, holding memories that had never belonged to this world. Its skin shimmered with patterns now, glowing faint lines, moving slowly across its surface like starlight, trying to remember its way home, and it was still speaking. The sound had no words, not in the way people knew them. It was deeper, older, the kind of sound that pulled on something inside the listener, not their ears, but their DNA. Rian stood beside it, his hand at his side, his head lowered. He wasn't leading it anymore. He was listening all around the fortress, screens lit up with symbols no one had seen before, spirals, layers of logic, geometries that didn't obey the known laws of physics, yet felt familiar. The queen stood near the balcony, her eyes wide. "My ancestors," she whispered. "They said the stars once spoke. You thought it was myth, songs told by priests." "Weren't songs," Rian said. "They were warnings, messages, instructions for remembering." Her voice cracked. "But why now? Why us?" Rian turned toward her. His voice was calm, but carried weight. "Because we're the first ones to look at monsters and not just ask how to kill them, but why they became monsters at all." The queen closed her eyes. She understood now the humans hadn't come to conquer or save or warn. They had come because they were part of something older, something that had been set in motion long before they were even born. They built the beasts, Rian continued, as living memories, not just to store knowledge, but to feel it, carry it, protect it. The ones who made them knew their time was ending. So they planted their story in creatures that could survive any world, even war. The beast lowered its massive head and pressed it gently against the stone floor, not in defeat, not in grief. In memory, Rian stepped closer. "This one," he said, "was never meant to be a weapon. But when it was captured, tortured, broken, it forgot what it was." He looked at the queen, at the generals, at the remaining guards who still didn't understand what they were seeing. It didn't attack you because it hated you. It attacked because it was scared, confused. It felt pain, and no voice to help it understand. "Until yours," the queen said quietly. "No," Rian said. "Until ours." Earth knew the feeling too well. We've done the same to ourselves, turned beauty into fear, turned fear into weapons. He looked back at the beast, and now something deep inside it has remembered. High above, the human ships in orbit began to shift, not into attack formations, into orbit synchrony. One by one, they turned their undersides toward the planet and projected the same pattern, a sequence of stars, ancient constellations, not from Earth's sky, but from somewhere else, a different origin. A forgotten home, then light, but not fire. A wave of soft golden light washed across the sky. From the ships, through the clouds, across the capital, and with it came the sound. Not thunder, not sirens, a heartbeat slow, rhythmic, like the pulse of something ancient waking up for the first time in centuries. The queen fell to her knees. So did others. Not in fear, not in worship, in awe, because they felt it in their bones, in their blood, their memory. And then the sky opened, not broken, not torn, but unfolded. A single rift, elegant, slow, beautiful like silk being, pulled apart, and through it came. Nothing like a ship, not a machine, but a presence. Light and shape without form. Memory given motion. Something had returned. Or maybe something had always been watching, waiting for its children to remember what they were. Rian didn't look up. He looked at the beast, and for the first time, the beast looked back and spoke. This time, the words were real, clear, low, steady, and impossibly sad. "We are not alone." Everyone heard it. Humans in orbit, aliens on the ground, machines, creatures. The message passed through every network, every mind. Not a threat, not a warning, just the truth. And then, silence again. The rift in the sky slowly closed. As if satisfied, the golden light faded. The constellations vanished. But the memory remained. The queen stood slowly. "What happens now?" Rian looked at her. For the first time, he looked tired now, he said. "You choose what kind of story your people will leave behind." And Earth Rian gave a faint smile. "We'll go home. We've seen what we needed to see." He looked at the beast. It had begun to change again, shrinking, its body reforming into something lighter, quieter, less a weapon, more a guide. Its eyes closed. A long rest. Not death, just peace. Rian reached for the signal device on his wrist. A final code. The human ships began to rise, not away from the planet, but upward. beyond the system. They had learned what they came to learn. They had awakened what they were sent to awaken. And now, the role was complete. The queen turned to the sky. Her voice was almost too soft to hear. "We always thought you were invaders." Rian nodded slowly, walking into the light. "No," he said. "We were students." She asked one last question. "Why weren't you afraid, Rian? When we threatened you? When the beast stood over you? When death stared you in the face? Looked at the door? Looked over his shoulder and answered, because death is only scary when you believe the story ends with you." He stepped through the doorway, the beast behind him, and vanished into light. And the city, no, the world began again. The alien sky was red. Thick black clouds moved slowly like smoke. Strange mountains floated in the air, glowing with blue fire. In the middle of a dark valley, a human spaceship landed with a soft hum. The door opened. A man stepped out. He wore a black suit with a silver helmet under his arm. His name was Captain Rian, Earth's top explorer, chosen for a secret peace mission with a deadly alien race. He looked around. The ground was cracked. The air smelled like burnt metal. Strange animal sounds echoed from the hills. But Rian showed no fear. He walked forward, alone. Suddenly, the ground shook. From the horizon, a large army of aliens appeared. Their armor was black and red, their eyes glowing yellow. They carried weapons that pulsed with energy. At the center of this army stood a tall figure, the alien warlord, Lord Vexor. He was 10 feet tall, his face sharp like a blade, and beside him was the beast. It was huge, 12 feet tall. Its skin was black, rough like stone. It had 6 legs, glowing red eyes, and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It let out a deep, growling sound that shook the rocks nearby. Every soldier stepped back. The beast was known across the galaxy. It had eaten warriors, burned villages, and destroyed entire ships. No one had survived it. No one, except today's. Visitor. Lord Vexor walked forward. His voice was loud and cold. "VXAR. You must be the human they sent, Captain Rian." Rian didn't answer. He simply looked at Vexor.com and still. "Vexor, you stand alone? No army? No weapons? Only foolish humans walk into death so quietly." Rian smiled very slightly. He said nothing. The beast moved closer. Its breath was hot and smelled of acid. It growled again, louder. Vexor raised his hand. "Vexor, why aren't you trembling, human? One word from me, and my pet will devour you." There was silence. Alien soldiers watched, waiting for Rian to fall to his knees. But he didn't. He didn't even flinch, just looked at the beast, not with fear, but with interest. Captain Rian, calmly. "It's beautiful." Vexor blinked. He wasn't expecting that. Rian took one step forward. The soldiers gasped. Even the beast tilted its head, confused. Vexor shouted, "Do you not understand what this creature is? Destroyed a battle cruiser with its jaws. It melts. Steel like butter. It doesn't feel pain, Rian, but it does feel something, doesn't it?" The beast growled low, almost like a question. It sniffed the air. It looked straight into Rian's eyes. The humans back at Earth had told Rian to be careful. They said this mission was dangerous, almost impossible. But Rian had read the secret files. He had studied this creature. In fact, he had seen it before in a lab. Flashback brief. Rian stood in a dark human lab, watching a young version of the beast through glass. Was smaller than, injured and afraid. Rian had reached out, not with fear, but with empathy. Back to the present. UA. Whispered in a strange language. The beast took one step back. Alien soldiers gasped. Vexor's eyes widened. "What did you just say?" "Something it remembers. Something older than fear." The wind blew harder. The beast growled, confused but no longer aggressive. It lowered its head, not in attack, but in curiosity. Rian turned to Vexor. "Rian, you brought this beast to scare me?" "But fear is a tool, Lord Vexor, and I know how to use it better than you." Vex or angry, you will regret your arrogance. Human, Rion, perhaps, but not today. Not. The beast let out a low, calm sound. The alien soldiers started whispering among themselves. Was the beast listening to the human?